Welcome to Color Class. I'm Sarah.
I'm Lucinda.
And today we are discussing blended seasons because you could possibly be a blended season that just doesn't fit.
In fact, you probably are a blended season because
You are a blended season.
Let's just think about this logically for a second. When we talk about the four seasons are four buckets of color characteristics. And this goes all the way back to Johannes Itten, like hundreds of years ago. So the history of color analysis, it's broad, and it puts people in four buckets, no matter where they come from. You can come from Antarctica, you can come from Norway, you can come from the tip of South America, you can come from Africa. Doesn't matter. If you're talking the four seasons, they're saying you fit into one of these four seasons. But we know, when we're talking logically, that people are far too diverse to be dumped into one of four buckets, right? We might, and what makes it even more complicated is we're looking at your hair color. We're looking at your eye color. We're looking at your skin tone. And people are all mixed up these days. Mm-hmm. She has very warm hair. She has a cooler skin tone. It's more neutral. Her eyes are gray. So that's kind of neutral, maybe on the cool side. There is no one category that you can fit her in. Now, in the four seasons, we look at hair. We start with hair because that's the biggest amount of real estate. That's where you have the most color, and it frames your face.
Right. That's our frame.
Right. But we use that as a starting point because we believe that just about everybody is kind of a blended season. Granted, the truth is you can be that perfect autumn that fits right in the middle of the autumn category with all, that
warm skin tone, warm eyes,
the
warm
exact
hair,
right buttons, pushes the right buttons or checks all the checks, and you fall right there in autumn, or you fall right there in winter, or you fall right in summer. But more likely, we are on the periphery. We move just like a color wheel. The color wheel, you can call a red, but really, if you look at the color wheel, there are all kinds of red that go, from, orangey red to blue red and everything in between.
To pink to burgundy.
Exactly. So tonally, your chroma. So the bottom line is there is no red, no perfect red. There are all sorts of beautiful reds. And that's what we're trying to teach you about today in terms of blended seasons, because you can fall all over the spectrum, be absolutely gorgeous, and end up with a palette that is totally you. Rather than what we've done this for 40 years combined professionally. And what we saw so often was people would buy color palettes because, they'd get dumped in one of the four buckets, and they'd say, well, I can only wear like 10 shades in my palette, or 12 or 5, because they were a blended season and they got kind of shoved over, into one of the buckets. Today, we're going to talk about blended seasons and what we do with you to get you to your own perfect customized palette rather than into one of the four buckets.
Now, one term that I wanted to bring up today is neutral, because we are going to be saying that, and I really want to emphasize what we mean when we say neutral.
Well, let's talk about the color wheel.
Yeah.
Because one of the questions that comes up on our Patreon account is, and I remember this question so vividly, and thank you, whoever gave us this question. They said, well, how can green, if it's on the yellow side, how can it be a cool green? And I really felt for this person and them having this question, because once again, there are neutral there is a neutral area that colors fall into. There's a neutral red. It's called watermelon.
Yeah. It's kind of in between the two, and
almost anybody can wear it. The same is true of green. They're neutral greens. They're neutral blues. And there are neutral characteristics. There might be neutral hair color. neutral eye color, neutral. Well, we know there are neutral skin tones. All you have to do is go into a Sephora or an Ulta and have them ask you, well, are you warm, cool, or neutral? And then you look at how much neutral foundation is sold compared to how much warm foundation versus how much cool foundation. And let me tell you the statistic I read. Fully twice as much neutral foundation is sold than warm or cool. So most of us, in terms of skin tone, are neutral.
So where does that leave us?
Good question.
What bucket do we fall into?
I don't know. Most of us are blended. A little personalized story. I tell the story on every video, but she's my kid. I'm her mom. When I was her age, I had that hair color, I had that skin tone, and I had those eyes. And I evolved. You know, my pigment kind of went with the wind, and I evolved into this cooler version of me. Well, where was I when I was between the autumn and the summer that I am today? Well, Carol Jackson once told me I was an awesome. But what that meant was I was a blended season between autumn and summer because I literally was changing and evolving into a different season.
In our blended system, we are basing this off of the 6 dominant characteristics. So you have light to deep, warm to cool, soft to clear. And that's really where we get the basis. And we're going to go through each of these blended seasons. Now, I do want to say right now, we are going to split it in half because you would be here all day if we had to go through each of these 6 palettes and talk about them.
Or we would do it poorly.
Yes. So we are going to split this video in half, and we're going to do the first 3, and then we're going to do the second 3, and we're going to start off with light. The 2 things that really bring to us together here on lights are springs and summers. But the difference is warm versus cool, because both of those seasons are light. The only difference is warm is spring, cool is summer. So what about people that fall in the middle?
And there's one other difference. Springs tend to be brighter in countenance, whereas summers tend to be softer. But again, what happens when you fall between spring and summer? You're a light. And that's what your dominant characteristic is. You're a light.
So here we have Amanda Seyfried. I feel like she's a really good example because when I search her, we have instances of her looking very warm, her hair looking very warm, her skin tone looking very warm and golden. And then we have instances of her looking very cool. Her hair is cool. Her eyes are very cool. Her skin tone looking cool. Now, this is a great example of you fall in between. You have a neutrality to your hair.
You're a blended season between spring and summer. Now, I do want to mention this because it's a pet peeve that I have that makes so many blonde celebrities just hair-pullingly frustrating to color analyze. And that is, you'll see them one month and they'll look really golden blonde. You will see them the very next month at an award show, whatever, and they'll look cool blonde. So there's a whole kind of, they kind of just move between the warm-cool barrier. They stay light.
Right.
But they move back and forth depending on their hair color. Sometimes it depends on what they're wearing, but oftentimes they just change their color back and forth. They change their blonde.
I feel like hairstylists do have a tough time with blondes. You know, you walk in, you say, I want this color blonde, and it can go yellow, it can go golden, or it can go blue, it can go purple, it can go cool. Right. So I feel like blonde is a tough color to nail down, and that's where neutrality comes in, where it's warm, cool, depending how it was dyed, and you get these neutral people that have neutral hair colors and neutral skin tones.
Yeah, and if you tried to drop them into a bucket, into our 4 seasons bucket, you know, you'd want to be calling them a spring or a summer. But we're here to tell you that they are a blended spring-summer blended season, and we are going to give them the dominant characteristic of light.
Now, colors that blended seasons for lights can wear. You mentioned coral in another video.
Coral's a great
Right.
kind of.
because it kind of blends. It has some warmth, it has some coolness in there, but just as long as it's a light coral, that's where it needs to be. You can also wear like teals or mintier colors,
Turquoisey
right?
colors, yeah.
You know, it's usually our universal colors that we talk about. So, you know, our corals is going to be lighter. It's kind of like a lighter watermelon. Or the teals, it's just a lighter teal. So those are the universal colors, just lightened down. It has a softness to it, but also if white was added. All right, next up we have softs. Now, we would know a whole lot about being soft.
We can tell you all about being soft because I've been a soft my whole life. She's been a soft her whole life. And yet, I've moved from being an autumn soft, like Sarah, to being a summer soft. And during that time period, I fell right in the middle as an awesome. And I was a summer autumn or an autumn summer blend.
And then for me, what is our neutrality that we talked about earlier? What are the things that are blending to make us soft? Well, I have very warm hair, but I have very cool eyes, and my skin tone is neutral to cool leaning. So when I do, like today, I have my hair out, I do warm up a little bit, and I went with more of a neutral blue. So I do change up, and soft people, because we have different competing neutrality characteristics to us, we can play up different features. We just have to focus a little bit on how we're going to play that up. So for me, I tend to go a little bit warmer because of my hair. You tend to go cooler because of your hair. But here we have Gigi Hadid, who's kind of in the middle. You can see like the roots are very soft. There's some warmth to the end, probably from dyeing it. Her eye color is like this teal right in
Neutrally
between.
blue color.
Right. There's just a whole lot of neutrality to her. Now, the opposite of soft, which is Gigi Hadid here, is clear. Now, you can see what happens when somebody who is soft wears a very clear color. It's going to go very intense. They're going to kind of be pushed in the background. And that's why, you know, we're just showcasing here what can happen. It goes intense. The color is very stepping out more than she is.
Yeah, but and also I just want to say it makes her look clay-like, almost like her skin tone just takes on a grayish cast when she is beautiful on the left with, you know, the background and the background being the color of her eyes and all that softness around her. But you put something harsh up against all that neutrality and softness, she's going to fall out.
Right. So if you are somebody who is soft, colors that are going to look amazing on you, this like muted teal color is perfect. I mean, I'm staring at Gigi Hadid and I cannot stop looking at her eyes. Like,
beautiful.
They're so piercing. It looks incredible. That is definitely a power color for her. And then you can also wear colors like taupe and like a dustier rose color that's right in between. So as long as, again, the neutrality but muted, neutral colors but muted.
Speaking as a soft, you can wear almost every color in the spectrum. If you add, like if you were making the color, if you added a little bit of gray to that color, like on your palette, any color can be soft.
So light, we added white, but with soft, we add gray, just to kind of give it a frosting. So it's not too harsh.
It down a little bit.
Now for the end of part one, we're going to end on deeps because we have a lot of deeps out there. We see this a lot, which is warm skin tone, cool hair. So warm, golden, brown skin tone with black, cool hair. That's a very common, I mean, it's so common and it's completely left out of the Four Seasons palette.
Yeah.
Because
where do you put them?
Right. Where do you go? Do you go based off your skin tone and put them into autumn? Or do you go based off hair and put you into winter?
And I can tell you from experience, neither are quite right.
Right.
But if you look at the deep palette, which is an autumn-winter blend, it's neither. Autumn is a cool season. Autumn is a warm season.
Yes.
Winter is a cool season. But deep is a neutral season. It takes the best of both worlds, and it is deep.
So colors that we're looking at, like the rich mahogany colors, like these deeper reds that are just luscious.
Huge this season, by the way.
Burgundies, olives. We talk like a dark olive,
Neutral,
right? It has
olive.
some depth. We talked about green because, you know, there's yellow and blue mixed in to make green. So you have warm and cool. Greens are really beautiful on neutral people that fall kind of in these in between.
You know, you have to be careful.
Right.
It's not a yellow leaf green. You've got to be careful. It's not a blue green. Again, the buzzword for today, this whole show is brought to you by the word neutral, because this is dealing with, I'd say, probably 75% of the people that we talk to are they have neutrality to them, and they're confused about how to deal with that in terms of their palette. Well, this is for you. This is about blended seasons and neutrality.
So if you are somebody who is deep, the only thing that I would shy away from is the opposite of deep is going to be light.
Pastels.
Yeah. So pastels, you just want to, it's not going to give you the depth. It's going to kind of make your skin go grayish, go almost like an ashier tone. Like if a frosting, a gray frosting was, I don't know.
A veil. Almost like you look like you're veiled.
I don't know why I'm thinking like the laundry when you take out the lint. Like there's like, I don't know, just like dusting on it.
Are you saying I look dusty, girl?
Well, then I look dusty too.
All right. Well, we don't look
Just
dusty.
saying.
We look delicate.
Yes.
And
But for
soft.
deeps, if you do wear those more pastel-y colors, you just go a little bit gray. Like the richness, it takes away that rich color that you have. And that's the only thing that I would say, stay away from.
And remember, the reason that we're here is to teach you tips and tricks of the color trade to make you look your absolute best.
Now, if you are interested in warm, cool, and clear, stay tuned for part 2, because we will have that up, because there are some differences between the two, and we're going to be looking at opposites like warm and cool, and then we're going to be looking at the opposite of soft, which we talked about, which is clear.
Clear's fun.
Yes, clear is very intense. So if you are interested, don't forget to subscribe. If you want to help us out, liking the video, commenting, sharing, does that here on YouTube. If you would like to see more of our lovely faces, more of Sarah and Lucinda in your life, we are also available on Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook.
Patreon.
And if you want to just chat with us, you have any questions, meet us over on Patreon. That's something that we kind of update daily. So it's easier for us to communicate with you through Patreon. And if you want to join us, feel free. We would love to have you.
And there's some cool stuff going on over there. Basically, you know, every couple of days you get an essay, which is like the chapter in a color book, you know, and it's on interesting things and topics that maybe you haven't given any thought to, or maybe you've given a lot of thought to, but don't have the answers to. And so it's fun.
Yeah, so come meet us over on Patreon. Now, to end out this video before we hit part 2, I'm Sarah.
I'm Lucinda.
This has been another color class, and we'll see you in part 2.